Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Viss. I'm the Service Owner for Collaboration Services here in ITS. Today we're going to be talking about mail and calendar. This is a little bit of a different session from the things we've done in the past. This is not going to be a 2-hour-long me talking to you. Hopefully this is going to be an interactive session. For those of you who do come in to view this, we are recording this session as well, and we'll make it available via our YouTube channel. We're also trying a few things out today, so there may be a few bumps and hiccups along the way. Hopefully nothing too severe that we actually end the Hangout, but if we do that, we will reconnect and post information back on our Google Plus page. If you responded to the event and you have an event on your calendar, you're going to see a link to that event from your calendar. We'll post information on that page if something really goes south, but hopefully we're knowing what we're doing at this point, and we'll go with that. You're also going to see me kind of looking off to the side to my left and to my right. I have a couple people in the room who are helping me out with the audio-visual, and also somebody who's monitoring the Q&A session for this Hangout. I will point out the Q&A module that's part of this Hangout is not intended as a chat pod. It is really for you to ask questions. If you have a question, you can IM me directly, or you can IM Jen Ruck, M-R-U-K, and she'll be happy to pass your comment on to me. But our preferred method would be to actually have you ask your question, and we're going to bring you into the Hangout, have you ask your question live so that everybody who watches the recording can see the question and hear you ask the question. And then you can stick around while I answer it. If you have any follow-ups, we can do that, and when you're done, you're welcome to leave the Hangout and continue to watch, or you can just drop in, ask a question, and be about your day. And I just want to verify that...
Yeah, we have 11 viewers.
Okay.
We don't have any official questions yet, but we...
Sorry, that was almost a dead Mac. Okay, and just for your information, Mike, I can hear your monitor sometimes. Okay. So before we don't really have any questions right now, and I do have a few things I'm going to cover. I'm going to be sharing my screen a lot. I don't have any slides, surprise, but I am going to talk about a few topics that have come up, mainly focusing on mail and calendar today. That said, if you have questions about another app, please feel free to ask those questions. I'm happy to address those. I will be covering a number of aspects of mail and calendar, however, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here, hopefully. Here we go. Sorry about the redundant. There we go. So this is my mailbox, pretty standard looking mailbox. Hopefully nothing weird comes in while we're doing this, but one of the things you'll notice up here, and I'm on a Mac, on a PC, this little symbol is going to be on the left-hand side, so it's going to be over here because in Windows these controls are over on the right-hand side. This is an incognito window symbol, for those of you who don't know. That's just a really quick and convenient way to have an independent session from your normal login session. I'm also going to point out that I'm using Chrome. Many of the things I talk about today will work in Firefox. Most of them will work in Internet Explorer. Almost all of them work in Safari. But there are going to be some things that are Chrome specific. If something I talk about today doesn't work in your browser, my best advice would be to look in your browser's add-on store, or kind of search Google for name of thing I mentioned for Safari or for Internet Explorer or something like that. But one of the questions we frequently get is around shared accounts. A lot of people on campus have what we call shared accounts. And shared accounts are simply fully enabled Google accounts that are not tied to an individual. I'm going to switch tabs here briefly. And what you can do in Chrome is you can manage those shared accounts fairly easily with what are called Chrome users. I have a number of them set up already, and you can see this. If I click that little head symbol, you'll see a number of the shared accounts I have access to. But if you have never done it before, you won't see this symbol in your browser. So it only shows up as soon as you have 2 or more users in Chrome. To set up your first one, we're going to go to the settings. And then on the very first page here in the middle, again, if you've never done this before, this section is going to be empty. What you'll see is users, and then you'll see this Add New User button. When you click Add New User, Chrome is going to open a little thing where you can select your favorite icon, and you can give this a name. So this might be, I don't know, I don't have another account to actually add, but let's say it's Collaborate. Just something that helps you identify it later on. And then you can click Create, and it's going to open a new Chrome window. This is independent of where you started from. So if you've signed into Chrome with your @umich.edu account, or maybe you have a Gmail account that you have a unique set of bookmarks or a unique set of extensions, maybe you want yet another set of bookmarks and extensions that are specific to your shared account or specific to your consumer or M+ Google account. You can do that with users. Like I said, I apologize, I don't have an account I can actually sign into, but what I can do is I can switch to my test account. Please don't email. Oh, shoot. I got signed out, sorry. Let's see if one of these is actually still on. I'll tell you what, we'll try my personal account. So this is my Gmail account. Expect a flood of email. Trying to go to Comic-Con. If you're trying to go to Comic-Con this year, it's going to be a trick. But what you can see in here is I have a unique set of bookmarks, I have a unique set of extensions, and all of this stuff is different than my Umich account. So I have all kinds of bookmarks here that are specific to work. I can get the forecast at home. I can go look at some of the things that people are doing on campus. I have a junkyard of things. But all of this is managed under the profile. So each one of these profiles can have its own set of things. This is really handy if you have a shared account and you want to manage that independently of your standard account, especially if you do things like send a lot of email. If you receive a lot of email, if your shared account is used to receive bounce backs or replies or something like that, it's very nice to have it open at the same time but not tied to your account, so you can actually have those windows running at the same time. Another way you can manage your access to a shared account is called delegation. Delegation actually happens in the mail settings. So this is just a standard mailbox. We're going to go to Settings and Mail. Probably seen this page quite a few times, but we're going to go over to Accounts. So I have a lot of accounts that I can send as, and we can talk about that as well. But down here at the bottom is this Grant Access to Your Account area. Right now I don't have nobody has access to my account but me. But if I wanted to do that, I can click this Add Another Account, and I'll choose my favorite person to test with. So this is Martin Sager, who's our product manager and lead for the collaboration services team. I'm going to put in his email address and click Next Step. It's going to warn me I'm about to give MJ Sager access to my mail. I can revoke it, but as soon as I give access to my account, the person you give access to has basically full access just like you do. They can delete mail, they can respond to mail, they can file mail, they can do whatever they want with mail. If I click this button, what would happen is Martin's going to get a confirmation email, and once that's done, he'll be able to switch and become me in another tab and manage my mail. I'm not going to do that because I actually didn't tell him I was going to test that, so I don't want him getting surprise emails. This is really handy if you have, like I said, a shared account, or if you support somebody else and you need access to their email, you can easily get that. One feature here as well, you can select how conversations get managed by your delegate. So if I have my account and I gave Martin access, I could choose to have a conversation left unread, even if Martin opened it and read it. This is really handy if you use unread messages as a task or a task management system, or if you just need to have those unread messages to know the counts for the day. Whatever your reason, you can do that. I'll leave that as it is. Sorry, I saw a chat come through. No, I can ignore that. That's fine. I'm going to pop back out. I'll take a brief pause. Do we have any questions come through? Okay. All right, so we're going to keep going. If you don't have a shared account, or you think you might have use for a shared account, go to google.umich.edu, and from our homepage, and you can just search for shared accounts, and it's going to be the second link. This is a really quick ticket to 4Help. We really only need 3 things. We need the ID for the account. The ID has to be 9 characters or more. And then we need a first and a last name for the account. So you can see here, it doesn't have to be a real person. It could be first name ITS, last name OpsCon. But we need that information in order to create the account. But once we have those 3 pieces, we can give that to you. If you have a specific password you want, we can do that. We prefer you pass that to us either over the phone or in a private chat session, but we can do those kinds of things. A lot of information on our website about various aspects of the domain. If you have a conference room, for instance, we can help you with that. But always call 4Help, and you can get to the Collab Services team. Frequent thing we hear also is managing a significant volume of mail. Shared accounts tend to get them a lot. Individuals are getting them more and more. Mail can be kind of an overwhelming thing to manage depending on what you're doing. Google has put a lot of effort into helping folks manage that volume of mail. Right now, I'm looking at my inbox, and you can't really tell, but I have a mode configured here called Important First. If I were to get a message that came in from someone that I've trained Google Mail to recognize as important, so my supervisor, for instance, if I get a message directly from him, it's automatically classified as important, and a section shows up above this Everything Else section that shows important messages. I'll refresh briefly. So I've marked this message as important, and now I have that section displayed. And this little indicator shows me that Google thinks this is important. If I hover over it, it'll try to explain to me why I've marked that as important. This one is important because I marked it. Frequently, if something is automatically classified, it'll say it's important because you frequently email this person or you email them directly. There's a lot of reasons why it might get marked important. If you don't agree with that, you could just click this symbol again and it goes away, and I'll refresh quickly, and it'll drop it back down into that Everything Else bucket. Excuse me 1 second. Thankfully, I remembered to get water this morning. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you have just a whole bunch of messages in here that even marking them as important or starring them just isn't enough, and you want to kind of filter out some of the noise. Things that might qualify as noise, if you're a Google Plus user, you may get a whole bunch of things of new followers or people responding to things. I actually have a filter set up to catch a lot of those things. And I'll go into my settings again here. And I'm going to go to this Filters tab right here at the top. And sorry for the shock here, I do have a lot of filters. There is no limit to the number of filters you can create. And as you can see, some of those filters get pretty long. They can also get fairly complex if you need them to. But I can classify things that come from Plus and move them to a label, guarantee that they never get marked as spam. I can guarantee they never get marked as important. Building a filter is really, really easy. I'll start back here at my inbox. To build a filter, really you just start up here at the search box. And you can search for a whole bunch of things. You can type in people that it's from, so I can put from : and then I can put in a unique name, so I'll use Martin again, and I only want to see things that came from Martin, MJ Sager at umich.edu, and I get a whole big list of things. I can also search for things that I sent to Martin, and that gives me a different list. This also shows things that were sent, oops, I should be careful I click. Shows things that were sent to him that I may have been copied on, so if you're in the to line with a bunch of other people, that will return tickets. Sometimes that's not really a good cut. This is saying 71, and I bet if I click next, that number will just keep going up. So yeah, we just jump to many. Many usually means hundreds and hundreds of messages. That's just too much. If you click this down arrow, sorry, I did that a little fast. So here in the search bar, we're going to go way to the right, not quite to the blue button, but I don't know how easy it is to see on the broadcast, but hopefully you're watching this in HD. You can click this little down arrow and show some search options. You get a nice little card where you can put a bunch of other criteria for your search. One of the big ones is I can search and just sent mail. So instead of searching my entire inbox, maybe I only want to see sent mail. That means I would only see things that I personally sent to Martin. If I'm looking in all mail, that's anybody sent something to Martin. But I can do that down to sent mail. This also shows all of your labels. So if you are labeling things in a specific way, you can look just in those labels. I'm going to flip this back to sent mail. And then you can start specifying all kinds of criteria around a message. Words that are in the subject line, words that are in the body of the email. You can exclude words. So if you know you get frequent emails with a specific word that you just want to exclude from your search, you can put them here. For instance, one of them might be, I don't want things with the word ticket in it. And I can kind of see down here there are some messages with the word ticket in there, and I can just exclude those. Another handy feature, you can look for things that just have attachments. You can exclude chats. By default, chats are stored in your mail account. If you have history turned off for an individual, they will not. But you can exclude those if you want to. And a very new feature, something that's come out in the last couple weeks here for M+ Google accounts, you can also search by the size of the message. This will take into account the body of the message and any attachments that are on it. And you have greater than or less than. Greater than is usually what most people are looking for. So let's just say I want to look for any message that I sent to Martin that's greater than 2 megabytes. I'm going to hit search. Now I only get 3 things. And that's a really useful search. Let's say I do that a lot. I want to keep that. So I can do a couple things. The first thing I can do is I can make a filter from this. So I can open this again, and it remembers what I typed in, and down here at the bottom right, there's a link that says create a filter with this search. Of course, I chose a bunch of things that are probably a bad idea. This is an example. Always read the warnings carefully. I'm going to ignore that just briefly to get to the next screen here. And this is the screen where you can specify what happens with items that match your search. So this is really handy for filing things, for instance. If I want to apply a label automatically, I can do that, and I can choose a label. And any message from here forward will have this rule applied. You can also, here at the bottom, there's a checkbox that says you can apply these to 3 matching conversations. This is a way to retroactively apply things to your filter. You can categorize things. You can just flat out delete it. A handy one is to never send anything to spam. If you are a subscriber, for instance, to maybe you get a newsletter from your department or a newsletter from an outside organization, sometimes outside organizations use mass mailing systems that maybe aren't the best email citizens in the world. As long as those messages are coming from a common email address, you could filter on that email address, for instance, and check this never send to spam checkbox, and that will guarantee delivery to your inbox instead of having to use spam. Whole bunch of options here. You can kind of dig in. I'm not going to create a filter because that's kind of gross right now. A couple other things. There are actually search criteria that do not appear in this drop-down. So we looked at these search options here. There are actually way more things you type into the search bar to find items. Delete what's in here. One of the things you can do is the keyword is. If you type is : there are a whole bunch of options. One of them, one that people use a lot, is unread. And this is going to search everything in your inbox and show you only things that are unread. If you've lost that message, you just don't know what happened, you've got way too many things in your inbox, here's a great way to find that. If you search for Gmail Advanced oops, search. The very first link here is a support document from Google. This is the complete list of things you can search for, and it, as you see, is very, very long, very, very specific. There are lots of search criteria you can add, and there are probably some things that you may not think you could have done. Wow, that was a really one. Things that aren't necessarily obvious, but that you can probably find use for in your mailbox when you're looking for specific items. One thing to note, because it's built on Google search technology, a lot of the things you do on the main search page also apply to your mail. So things like the operators OR and apply here. So I could search for things like Martin and, we'll say Martin and Zeke, and that's going to give you different results than if I typed Martin or Zeke. This is just the standard joins. If you're familiar with database terminology, this is the way to do different searches for that kind of, for database items. Just think of your mail as a huge database, and you could probably do things just like you can in SQL or something like that. Another thing you can do is literal operators. So if you want to search for exactly a word, something like the singular of a word and not its plural, I can search for email specifically, and that's a terrible search in my email box, but this will return only things that have the word email exactly as I typed it into the search bar. So if I put a hyphen in here, for instance, it's going to give me a different set of results. You can also string these things together. This is going to return nothing, but you can do those kinds of searches to get very specific about when or what a message has in it, or when you got it, or when you sent it, and all those kinds of operators. Are you trying to get my attention?
Can you see, Doug Hovey has a question in Q&A, and it populated inside my Hangout. Can you see that?
No, so I can't see it when I'm in screen share.
Okay, so let me just ask it to you. Hopefully I won't botch it too bad. When I filter messages using a search, the results span more than one page. I can select a link to, in quotes, select all end conversations in, end quotes. If I then make a mass action like delete or archive the messages, it leaves one page of results. Is this a bug?
So I'm going to demonstrate what I think you just described, and then I'll answer the question afterwards. So what that's describing, I'm going to do a really so I'm going to search for collaboration in my inbox, which is a totally fruitless search for me. If I start clicking next over here, this will go from 65 quickly to many. Yeah, so we're at 61 of 80 of many, which probably means there are thousands and thousands of messages. If I go up here, there's a drop down, of course, but there's also just a checkbox. And if I check that, by default it's going to select every message that I currently see on the page. So it's only selecting items 61 through 80. What it's not doing is selecting the many portion of that. Up here at the top, it says you're looking at 20 conversations. Would you like to select all the conversations that match the search you just executed? If I click that link, now it doesn't show me anything, but what's happened is everything that matches this search has now been selected. If I do something now, so if I go to my More menu and I pick something off of this, like mark as unread, add a star, something like that, whatever I choose applies to every message that matches this criteria. And for me, that's probably going to be 1,000 or more email messages. If you select something from an individual, for instance, if you search for a unique name in your email, every message where you've mentioned that person will be selected. So to the specific of the question, one of the things I can do is I could delete all these messages. I'm going to click this because it's actually going to give me a warning, and the warning is the action you're about to do is going to affect a whole bunch of messages. Are you sure you want to do that? If I were to say OK at this point, it's going to delete. It's going to delete everything that I have selected. So to the specific question, it sounds like, Doug, when you do that, you actually have one page of results left. Is that? Can we bring him in?
Why don't you ask him live if he's willing to do that? I don't know if.
So I can't do it.
Do you want me to try to invite him?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try.
Sorry, excuse our the ad hoc nature of some of these items.
Should I hit done yet? I'm not going to hit done yet because I'm going to test. Okay. We have more than one, so I'm going to hopefully choose the right Hobie.
I'm going to pop back over here and I'm going to stop screen sharing briefly. Oh, now I see it. Okay. So we're trying to invite Doug into the hangout here. Hopefully, Doug, if you are in your Google Plus, you probably see a notification, or in your mail, you may see a notification as a chat. Oh, there it is.
Is he coming in?
Yep.
Okay.
Give everybody's computer a little moment to sync up here. See your tile, Doug, but we don't see you. I hear you.
You can hear me?
You're a little quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But so did I accurately describe what you're seeing?
Well, I think what happens is that it just doesn't refresh. It shows all the updates that happen, and then the last one, the last page just sits there as if it didn't happen. But when I refreshed it, it looks like when I refreshed that search, it did clear out that last page. It actually just doesn't look like it refreshes the screen.
Okay. And this is in Chrome?
Yes.
So that might be a bug. So I'll put a plug in here. So those kinds of things, we can work with Google to fix bugs like that, but generally we need to collect a little bit more information. So if you see it again and you have the time, contacting 4Help to collect that information gets it to the Collab Services team, and we can open a support case with Google about those kinds of things. Chrome is officially supported, so we can even open a bug if we think it's Chrome specific. But yeah, that doesn't sound. That may be a display issue, but that sounds a little buggy to me. So we'd probably like to look into that if you have the time.
Okay, I'll see if I can do a screen capture of it and send it to you guys.
That would be great. One of the things they typically ask us for is whether you can reproduce the issue in an incognito window with no extensions. We just like to eliminate any possibility that something installed in the browser is causing the issue.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thanks for joining the Hangout. Thanks for the question. Anything on the Google Plus page or nope? All right. Oops. Sorry, I am unlocking my phone, which is my notepad for the day. And I'm going to go back to screen share. And then I'm going to go back to here. And then back to my inbox. So another thing you can do, like I mentioned before, when I click the importance button or the importance marker here, I get that importance section appearing at the top.
Stand by 1 second. I'm not seeing your screen. I see it. You do?
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So something in mind too. We are doing a Hangout on air today. If I get out of sync, we know that sometimes the broadcast gets a little out of sync. Generally, that is not noticeable to folks, but if you are watching and something looks weird, please ping us and we'll try and get that sorted out. Anyway, back to inbox mode. So the inbox has a number of modes that you can use. This is called Important First. There are a bunch of them. To get to them, if you hover over the inbox label, you'll notice there's a little down arrow over here. Google loves little down arrows. Hover over things in your interface, you'll probably see down arrows lots of places. But I'm going to click this one, and you're going to get a flyout. And this is showing you the different inbox types. Yeah, there's a default mode, which we'll talk about in a moment here. Important first, you can actually have a section where your unread messages drift to the top section. So if I click that, everything that's unread goes in a little group here, regardless of whether it's important or not. I can do starred first. I can do priority inbox. Priority inbox used to be the default mode. Priority inbox puts unread at the top, then an important section, and then everything else. You can actually do an ad hoc mode. So if I go into the settings for mail, and I go into the inbox tab, right here at the section at the top, there's an inbox sections section where you can choose up to 4 individual sections of mail. Maybe I don't want these to be unread. Maybe I want it to be important and unread. So I can choose that, and then I can have just unread, and then I can have starred, and then there's everything else. If I save this, it's going to bring me back, and now I have new sections here. Starred is empty, of course. You can hide empty sections if you want to, or you can just leave it there with the label, but no messages displayed. This will populate, obviously, as you star things, then you'll have things populate into there. This is handy if you have a system already working. You can use the inbox to help sort your mail into a meaningful way. Google has also introduced a new mode that is now the default mode for Google Mail accounts. You may have seen this on your personal account or on your M+ Google account. This is that new tabbed interface that runs horizontally through your inbox. You have 5 sections: primary, social, promotions, updates, and forums. Unfortunately, you can't make your own tabs. They are only the canned one that Google provides right now. We're hopeful that this will be something they'll expand on, but we have not heard anything about that. Some of these may not be applicable. You can click the plus button here at the end, and you'll get a little window where you can select which tabs you want to display. If you want to get rid of something, you can just clear that, and it takes the tab out. I'll leave them all in here for now. You'll notice if you hover over these items, over here, sorry, I can't really move my mouse to be the same, but there's an example section on the right-hand side. It's showing you, based on the mail that's in your inbox, who's going to go into which tab. So, for instance, here on the promotions tab, I'm subscribed to a whole bunch of mailing lists. The Box team sends a lot of emails to us. The Human HRD sends things because I've taken some classes. I get the record and, of course, voices of the staff. It's going to automatically filter those items into my promotions tab. Updates are going to come from, not quite sure why Gene is being classified there, but that's something I would be able to fix. But something like ITS service status, that's definitely an update. That's for any maintenance that's being performed. If there's an outage, we post a service notice. I am subscribed to the email for those kinds of things, so I definitely want to get it, but I may not want it directly in my inbox. And then forums, this is kind of a catch-all. If you're subscribed to Google Groups, or maybe you participate in another forum for a professional group you're a member of, you can have those things classified. You can also have anything you star automatically go into your primary tab. That's handy if you need to quickly move something from one of these tabs up to your main primary inbox tab. But if I go through these, I don't use this a lot, so I apologize. There's probably not a lot of items in my inbox. But for instance here, I got a message from Palmer Commons, which congratulations to the Palmer Commons staff. They've been around for 10 years. We love using their facilities. And we're going to be there on the 26th, I think, for our next collab forum. So come and see us in Palmer Commons March 26th at 1 p.m. Done plugging. Okay. But I have something here. This message came in, and Google automatically classified this as an update. Maybe I don't really want things from Palmer Commons going into updates. What I can do is I can click and hold on my mouse, and I can drag this into a tab that I think is more appropriate. I'm going to move this conversation to my primary tab, and now it's here. This does a couple things. I've moved it so I can undo it. You can have that link right here. And if this happens a lot, I can say yes, and anything that comes from that person will always show up in my primary tab. If the message you're receiving is coming from a consistent email account, that's a super quick way to get it to stop being classified into one of these other tabs. I'm going to switch over to another inbox of mine, and I'm logged in Firefox here. This is a shared account that we have. Here we have, and I'm sorry for the background, I should have probably changed that. Love the space shuttle, though. You'll notice that we have all the tabs here, and this one's fairly active, and you'll notice that there are 14 new messages in social and 2 new messages in updates. This is not an unread count, it's just a number of things that are new in that account. So I may actually have filters that are pushing things to the social tab that I just mark as read. I don't want my Google Plus notifications to mess up my unread message count, but I still want to know when they come in. That's what 14 new is indicating here. If I click over, it's showing me that these are new, and it kind of fades out quickly there. I can select all the unread messages here. I can mark them as read, and I'm done with my social updates for the day. That's all the new YouTube videos and Google Plus reminders I had, and I can go about my merry way back to my inbox. I can go look at updates, so I have a new Google group membership that's pending, and somebody has requested access to a shared spreadsheet. I can go in there, and I'm not actually the owner of this stuff, but I could click the link and I could give Jen access to that. I won't go through that, but you kind of get the idea of what's happening here with these tabs. Google is fairly intelligent about what gets classified in each of these tabs, especially things like promotions. If you're on mailing lists for an online shopping site or Facebook, for instance, Facebook and Twitter notifications are very easily classified into the social bucket. Google Plus as well. It's just blatantly clear to Google's algorithms that that stuff is social. If you don't need to get those updates in your primary inbox, that's a really handy way to filter out some noise. We have a lot of automated systems here on campus that spit out notifications about this, that, or the other system is up, down, needs a little attention. Those kinds of things are quickly filtered into updates. And if you're in a Google group, or I know a lot of folks still use Yahoo groups or any kind of listserv, the forum tab catches a lot of those messages. Still in your inbox, pretty quick to get to, but not necessarily right up front in your primary inbox. Excuse me a second. Did not plan on talking quite that loud.
You're still seeing a screen. We don't see any questions. We have 14 viewers on still.
I'll just keep plowing ahead then.
If you could just ask them for questions again, please.
I think you just did.
Okay.
But yeah, if you do have questions, again, we're happy to invite you into the Hangout to ask your question on air. You can ask your question on the Google Plus event, or you can. What was the other place? Oh, there's a Q&A pod in the Hangout itself. You can. Your interface will look a little bit different than what you're seeing on my screen, but down here there should be a chat pod essentially that you can ask your question. We will ask that you not use this for just general chatting. This really is for asking a question because we can't respond in the pod. Okay, so maybe inbox modes aren't doing it for you. The tabbed interface in Mail is just not catching enough, or you have way too many things that you need to deal with. That may be the point where we just need to jump into third-party tools. So I just want to preface this next little bit. I am going to be talking about a tool that is an add-on to Chrome. I believe it's an add-on to Firefox and a couple other browsers. It is not a Google product. It is not something I'm compensated for. In fact, I've given this company money, but it is a well-known and trusted add-on that a lot of folks use. If you are interested in it, I'm happy to discuss it in a lot more depth with your individual group. But I do want to put the disclaimer out here. I am going to be talking about something that is not Google and is not officially supported by U of M, but it is super cool. What I'm talking about is called Active Inbox, and I'm going to flip over to my actual email box here in just a second, and I want to warn you it's going to be a little garish the first time you see it, lots of colors and lots of new interface elements, so just bear with me as I kind of go through the tour here. And sorry, Nancy, I do not have a moment. So this is my inbox with Active Inbox, and hopefully I don't have anything too bad in here. And I'm going to contrast that briefly with, oops, this is my inbox just with Google, no extensions, no add-ons, no anything else. This is Active Inbox, and there's a number of changes you're going to notice right off the bat. The big one, or the big three, we'll go with the big three. First of all, my inbox area is really busy. I have a lot of sections in here, and I'm going to kind of go through what each of them are. This bar has changed. This has been rewritten by the extension, and there's also a bar across the top that has a number of elements to it. Active Inbox is essentially a, well, we treat our inboxes like to-do lists. Mailboxes are a terrible way to manage tasks because email generally is something you need to address, but the email itself may not be a task, and there may be information around it that you need in order to accomplish something. You know, maybe you have a project item that needs to be ticked off, or you have a deliverable you need to get to, but there's a lot of things that kind of precede actually delivering the output of something. Active Inbox helps you manage that a little bit. Excuse me. Active Inbox is built around an email methodology. Well, it's not email. About a methodology called Getting Things Done. If you're familiar with that, it's a book that's been around for some time. It is available from our library. If you're interested in it, you can look up Getting Things Done. It's a pretty quick read. I would highly recommend it. It is not specifically about managing your email. It's a more general work management process, but it works really, really well for email because we treat email like we used to treat paper on piles on our desk. Now we just have piles of email that we need to have meaning around. Active Inbox helps you create those piles. The Getting Things Done, and I am going to talk about the tool here, but a lot of this doesn't make sense without the context of the methodology, so I would highly recommend you read it, or if you would like me to come and talk about it, I do have a roadshow where I kind of talk about managing mail with the Getting Things Done methodology and using this tool to help out with that methodology. I'm happy to come and discuss that with your group, or you individually if you really are struggling. But the basic premise of Getting Things Done is when you process a new message, you have 4 things you can do with it. You can do it. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. Get it done, get it out of your inbox. You can delegate it. You can give it to somebody else to do. You can defer it. I know I have to do something, but I don't have time right now, so I'm going to push it to a point in the future. Or, and I try to minimize the 4th option, you can delete it. And typically for when people are managing mail in Google, we replace delete with archive, but we can talk about that as we get to the end. For doing it, that's pretty straightforward. You're going to open a message, so for instance, this Google group request, I know that if I open that message, there's a link in that message that's going to let me, well, I can just open it. This person wants access to a group that I'm a part of. I manage that group. I can approve or reject that request by clicking this link. If I click that, it's going to send me directly to a page. I can check the box. I can hit approve, and that person's been added to our Google group. I know that takes less than 2 minutes. When I sit down to process my inbox, I know I can do this. I just quickly do it, and then I archive it, and that's done. That's a message that is no longer something I have to worry about. It is gone, and that's a task that I completed. For something else, like this message from Gene, there's probably something in there that I need to review. Maybe I need to read some text and make a comment on it. There might be a document linked in there that I have to go through and leave comments on. I know that's going to take me longer than 2 minutes, and I just don't have 2 minutes right now. So what I can do, I can select that message. I know I have to do it later. I want it out of my inbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. Now that it's selected, I have a new little icon from Active Inbox. I'm going to open that up. And Active Inbox gives me a bunch of options. Since I know I have something to do, I'm going to make this an actionable item. And then I'm going to archive it. And I'll do a quick refresh. Never do a live demo. Excuse me. Oops. And you'll see it kind of build out here in a second. And it's put it now up here in my action folder. I'm going to just kind of open and close that. So all the things that are up here, these are action items. These are things I need to do, and sometimes I even will have a day. So let's go back to Gene's here. I'm sorry, Gene, if you're watching. I didn't intend to make you the example, but there we are. So for instance, I just have to do this later, but let's say I know I'm not going to get to it today. This is something that is just not going to happen today. I can select this calendar icon. I get a flyout. What I will do is I will look at it tomorrow. So I'm going to click tomorrow. It's going to put that date on there. Now when I go back, I see that tomorrow label is applied to that message. I know I got to do it, but I can safely ignore it until tomorrow because I have budgeted that time for tomorrow. Just something that I want to kind of show you from the tools perspective. Let's say it's something I'm going to do today. A new section shows up here for any items I've marked as actionable for today. So now I have that section, and it just flags it to kind of beat you over the head with it that today is something, this is something you need to do today. Yeah.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Does this tool have keyboard shortcuts, or does it work with Gmail's existing keyboard shortcuts?
So the second question, yes, it does work with Gmail's shortcuts, and you'll see I'm kind of paging through. Oops, kind of paging through down here. You'll see the blue indicator. The one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't go up into the lists up here. I want to say it has shortcuts. Go in here. So they call them keyboard accelerators. You can do that clicking plus or right-click. I haven't gotten around to learning them yet, to be honest, but there are some shortcuts available for Active Inbox. I'm actually going to leave that because that is something I need to do today. Excuse me. Another nice thing you can do, even if you don't put a date on it, sometimes you want a priority. When it's not in your standard Gmail inbox, so this section here is specific to Active Inbox, you can click and drag things in the list to reorder them. So if order has an importance to you, you can use that. Another really slick thing is the ability to leave subtasks. So maybe I have to-dos on it before I'm going to respond to Gene, or I have context around this conversation that I need in order to keep moving forward. So this might be, put together outline for IT for you. And maybe that's something I need to accomplish before I can actually respond meaningfully to Gene. I can save that. When I open the message, when I open the conversation, all of these things appear at the top. What's really handy is when I go back out to my main inbox, that task or that note also shows up with the conversation right there. So I don't have to go into the conversation to get that context. It's available right in my inbox. Going across the top here, just a couple more things. You can set things to be next. Next is generally, this is what I should be doing next is the context here. So instead of making this an actionable item, really what I should do is I should mark this as next. And then when I come up to my inbox, I've prioritized the next section above action. And ideally what you're doing is you're working from the top down on your tasks. There's also a waiting on bucket. Waiting on means this is something I need to do, but I'm waiting on someone else to do something first. So this is going to be an action item or a next item at some point in my future, but I need, maybe I need Dima to do something. Well, this one I'm waiting on Heather, it says. So I need Heather to do something in order for my to-do list, my to-do task to come up. And then I have today, and of course, if something comes in, I don't have anything in here right now, but if something comes in that is super high priority and requires your action, you can tag it with that exclamation point, and that will make the highest priority item in your email box. So you've been trying to get my attention.
We do have a question.
Yep.
Bob Harold's asking, I want to tell Chrome to never ask me to log in and never sync anything, but I still want to log in to Gmail and read my mail. Every so often I accidentally end up logging in to Chrome instead of just Gmail, and it syncs, which is not what I want.
Okay. So I'm going to flip back to here just to kind of take Active Inbox out of the mix for a second. Now, of course, now that I've done that, I need to go here. So I just want to explain the difference quickly to those who may not use those features. So you're signing into your email, and signing into your email is if you go to email.umich.edu, or you go to google.umich.edu and click on the mail link at the top. That's going to send you through web login. So you're going to sign in with your unique name and your Umich password. That's just signing into your email. If you close your browser, just like if you closed your browser when you were signed into Wolverine Access, your session is going to expire and it's going to log you out of your email account. That's one method that was mentioned in the question. Another method is signing into Chrome. So you are actually signing into the browser first, not your email account. And that's done from the settings menu. If we click that, you'll notice that I'm already signed in. This is what you would use if you want to synchronize your bookmarks or your extensions, some of the things I talked about in the past with Chrome users. When you're doing a Chrome user, you're essentially signing into the browser, and the browser is managing that account. If you don't want to do that, and there are good reasons not to do that, especially if you don't want to synchronize anything between computers, you definitely want to not sign into Chrome on the computer. You want to leave independent from all of your account settings. There are a couple of methods to leave you signed into your mail but not signed into Chrome. I will preface this as well with you will not stay signed in forever, but it will reduce the number of times you have to sign in. Generally, you get signed out if there's a major upgrade to Google Mail, for instance, if Chrome upgrades, or certain maintenance tasks. If you're on a My Workspace machine, for instance, if certain updates get pushed out, you'll get force signed out because your cookies get reset or whatever happens to do that. It might be something that Google forces you out as well. But in order to stay signed into Mail but not signed into Chrome, you probably want to do two things. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into your settings, and you're going to go down here and click up here at the top on Startup. Make sure you have Continue Where I Left Off selected. A lot of folks have selected Open a specific page or set of pages, and then they set email.umich.edu to be one of those pages. You can do that, but that's more than likely going to force you to sign in every time because it's just sending you back to the URL. It's not remembering your session. Selecting this middle option will help Chrome remember your session. That's actually handy because it remembers all of your open tabs, for instance. So if I, you know what, I'm not going to do that. But for instance, if I were to close down this instance of, if I click the red jelly here, or if I'm in Windows and I click the red X, when I open Chrome back up to this profile, it's going to remember all the tabs I had open and reopen them. If you were on a site that you weren't preserving your session, you know, if you log into Twitter but don't tell it to remember you, you'll have to log in again, but it will send you back where you were. But this will help preserve your login. Another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pin the tab. So you kind of see I have two tabs pinned right here. What I will do is I'll go over to my incognito window. What you see right now are just normal tabs opened up. I have my calendar opened up and I have my email opened up, but they're just there. I can move them around, whatever it is. If I close this down, they're gone. What I can do is I can right-click on the tab, or if you're on a Mac, two-finger tap, and choose Pin Tab. It's going to do a couple things. First thing it's going to do is it's going to shrink that tab down, and if it were over here, if I had a whole bunch of tabs, it would also shift it all the way to the left. And you can pin multiple tabs. So if I open Drive, and I open Sites, and all these kinds of things, but let's say Calendar was way over here. I want Calendar to open up every time I fire off my Chrome profile as well, so I can right-click, pin tab, and you'll notice it shifts it all the way over to the left, and now I have 2 pin tabs. And this looks a lot like here. These will always open up. And it'll always remember that I'm signed in on those pin tabs. Doing those 2 things should probably accomplish what you're hoping to do. Right. I'm going to run out of water.
You know, we are approaching almost an hour. I don't know if you, well, one, let's ask for more questions.
Yep, definitely.
2, you know, do we want to, if we don't have questions, how are you on your agenda?
I haven't even touched Calendar yet, so I can
keep going.
If there's anything I can do in this world, it's talk.
I think I'm going to step out and fill that up for you.
Yeah, no,
things are rolling.
Go for it.
All right.
All right. So we'll have some motion here in the room as we position a little bit. Mike has generously offered to help keep my throat hydrated. Just kind of wrapping up here a little bit on Active Inbox. There is a lot of depth here. I'm not going to cover it all because, frankly, you just have to use it to kind of work your way into a lot of these features. I think for managing tasks alone, if you use your email like I do as a task list in certain ways, this is an invaluable tool. There is a free version, and there's also a paid version. The paid version is $25 a year. $2 a month is pretty cheap for software. It's not paid for. I will tell you, I have paid for it. They call it Plus. You can subscribe up here in the extension. But I don't know of a lot of departments that actually pay for it. I know mine isn't, but it's well worth the money to kind of organize my inbox and keep my sanity, which is, frankly, something you can't put a price on. But if you try it out, generally you get a month of the Plus features for free just to kind of try it out. If you have questions about it, feel free to either email me or, even better, post in the Collab forum. I'll give a plug for that too. If you go to google.umich.edu, up here at the top we have a whole bunch of tabs. These will send you to the various services so you can log in. So everything from Mail to CTools is going to send you directly to that site. If you're not logged in, it'll prompt you to log in at WebLogin. If you are, it'll send you right there. This last tab here is for our Collab forum. If I click that, it'll send me to the Collaborate site. To get to the forum, you want to go to Discussion. And, of course, never do a live demo. What you'll see here is the page is embedded. This is a Google group that we maintain. The group membership is restricted to @umich.edu email addresses. But if you do choose to join or you're a member already, the group is public on the internet, so everybody can search for and read the topics. Thank you very much. But only @umich.edu accounts can post and participate in the discussions. And we have topics for Google Box, CTools, just general announcements. If you don't really want to kind of go through all of that, there's a link here to show all of the topics. That'll get you a quick list. If you don't want to look at it in the embed, you can click here and it'll send you out to a bigger page, and you can kind of browse through. When you subscribe, you can subscribe and come to the forum itself and participate through the Google Group interface. You can also get emails sent to you, and you can participate via email, much like a listserv. The emails will come to the group and post in the appropriate topic. You really don't ever have to come here if you don't want to through the group. But we do try to be active here. We post announcements for new features, collab forum meetings, general questions. We try to highlight cool things people are doing on campus. So if you have a question or something you want to brag about to campus, please come here, and this is a good place to do it. Yeah.
Doug asks, does the $25 cover all your Gmail inboxes?
For Active Inbox. So I believe you'll have to read the license on your own to guarantee this, but I'm pretty sure what it covers is up to 2 email addresses, but as many browsers for those email addresses as you want. So for instance, I have the extension on my work computer here on my home desktop, and I had a laptop of my own at one point that I've gotten rid of, but I had it installed there as well. But I do believe it lets you install it on a second email address, so I could put it on my Gmail account and my Umish account. But again, I read the license just to double check. I don't use it on my personal Gmail account because frankly I don't get that much mail there.
Another question.
Yep.
Carl's asking, can you change the icon or description on a pinned tab?
Can you change the icon or the description on a pinned tab? No, I don't believe you can. The pinned tab icon takes the fave icon for the website that you're on. So the one thing it does do, on mine I have a lab enabled to show the unread count in my mail on the tab. That does translate, and I want to say there are labs for calendar that do so as well. But no, I think it just takes the icon of the website you're on that you pinned. Unless somebody knows, I'll toss that back out to the group, unless someone knows of an extension or a script or anything that would let you customize the icon for a pinned tab. If you do know of something, you can either tell us here, or that would be a great topic to post in the Collab forum as well, because I think others would have that question.
I have a comment on that.
Okay.
Paul's saying, I use Conversation View.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to move an email message out of a conversation thread and perhaps associate it with another thread? So
that's a multi-layer question. Can you move an individual message out of a conversation? No. Can you take a message that's not part of a conversation, merge it into another conversation? Not that I'm aware of. What you can do is you can split a conversation off at a certain point. Let's see if I can find a good example. So I'll go here, and hopefully nothing too embarrassing in here. But this is a 5-message conversation. Kathy and Martin and I were trying to schedule a meeting with the C-Tools team and some of the Collab Services people. But this is actually a good example. So for instance, I emailed Kathy directly, and she responded. And in the course of our conversation, I wanted to have her and members of her team come to a standing meeting that Collab Services has. But I needed to verify with Martin that was okay first. So I didn't want to commit Kathy's time to something that I then had to uncommit. So what I did was, you can see here, we're emailing directly. It's just Kathy and I. And then I forwarded that message to Martin. What I didn't do was split the conversation. So these things are all grouped together, even though I'm really having 2 logical conversations. To Google, that's one email conversation. What I could have done at this point was I could have forwarded this message, which I did in the first place. But when I forward, it just keeps the same subject line. It keeps the same message content from the point at which I started the forward. So for instance, I did this from message number 2, not from message number 5. And this message is only going to quote what was in that conversation to that point. So we only see 2 email conversations at that point. If I want to break that into a separate conversation in Google Mail, another down arrow application here, I click that, and I want to click Edit Subject. That's going to open this in the Compose window, and I'm going to have the subject line highlighted by default. What I can do here is I can change this to, verify Um, meeting guest. Good convention to get in the habit of is putting something like was and then the old subject line. This is handy to both give context to the person you're going to forward the message to, and it also aids you in the future when you come back and search for this conversation. You'll get both of them in the search results. So I could search for C-Tools in Google Calendar, for instance, and I'll get both of the conversations. And then I could send this over to whoever I can, put Mike in there. Wrong Mike, anyway. But I could send this over to a random Mike, and they would get only the context of those two messages with the new subject line. What that does is when they reply, I'll wind up having two conversations in my inbox with unique sets of recipients. Hopefully that addresses the question. I know we're probably lagging by like, what, 45 seconds to a minute? So.
Yes, that's true. You might want to bring that up to people that if we are probably a minute ahead of their question, so we will pause from time to time to try to.
Yes, and if you have a follow-up question or I didn't address a question you asked, please put that into the Q&A session or on the Google Plus page, and we're happy to loop back. But the reality is, because we're on air, the words I speak take about 60 seconds to actually get to you. Other questions before I move on? Okay, again, always happy to loop back. I realize the time delay is a little weird sometimes for Hangouts on here. So I've been talking about mail for a very long time. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Calendar. Calendar is pretty straightforward, we think, and then we try to use it, and then it's actually not quite so straightforward sometimes. One of the things that, well, not one of the things, but we hear a lot of really interesting questions, people looking for things that they can't find, and I wanted to kind of go over the nooks and crannies in Calendar where Google might have hidden some of those gems that you're trying to find. One of them is finding rooms, to be honest. When we go into the Create screen here, pretty easy to add guests. I think a lot of us have seen the Rooms tab. You can filter by room, which is handy if you know the room number or anything like that. You can also show available. If I clear that, it's going to show me anything with 3028, either whether I can book it for that time or not. But maybe I want to be in a specific room and I just don't know what times are available for that room. Typically that's a problem for larger conference rooms when we have big meetings. I know I need to be in 101, but 101 is booked every time I've chosen. Just show me everything there. You can actually see that. Again, lots of caveats here of you have permission, you're in the department. Sometimes departments actually lock down who can book a room. Standard exceptions apply based on your unit, but I will show you where most of these are. Down here we have a couple sections, My Calendar and Other Calendars. Other calendars are just those things that you look at all the time. It might be your coworkers' calendars or a shared calendar you have for vacation time. Once again, down arrows hide really interesting things. I'm going to click that and I get this flyout menu. And we're going to go look and browse interesting calendars. Browse interesting calendars does actually have a lot of interesting calendars you can add. You have holidays from pretty much any place you can think of. If you're a sports fan, you can subscribe to the schedule for your favorite sports team. For instance, there might be a NCAA football team that a lot of us are interested in. Way down here, maybe. You can also Control or Command F and search for items. So there's the Chips, Eagles, we got our Spartans and our Wolverines. And you'll notice I'm already subscribed to these things. You can preview the calendar to make sure it's showing you what you want. We'll jump out to October here, and we see football games starting to get scheduled already. These aren't showing up in the calendar right now. This is actually maintained by, I want to say CBS or whoever owns the rights to NCAA football actually maintains these calendars for Google, so they may not have updated the football schedule quite yet, although we know most of them. But you can subscribe to it by clicking the subscribe link here, and what that will do, if I click my back to calendar item here and I go to other calendars, we go down here, we'll see the Michigan State Spartans and the Michigan Wolverines are in my other calendars. And as I go to October, let's just look at this week, there we see those games are on my calendar. Some of the Cornhuskers are playing the Spartans at the same time as the Wolverines are and the Scarlet Knights are playing. Oh, yep, go ahead.
We have a question back to mail, so I want to make sure you're done with the point you're doing right now.
We're going to jump around.
All right,
okay.
So Jeff has a question about mail. Is it possible to search for messages in all mail which do not have any labels assigned, and in parentheses, archived without labels?
No. I'll just repeat in case. So the question was, can you search in mail for messages that do not have a label? No, you can't. Unfortunately, that is the one thing we have not figured out how to do. And we search every once in a while in Google Forms. It's a frequent question that basically goes unanswered by official Google channels, but we see a lot of people saying, wouldn't that be a cool feature? And yes, we think that would be a cool feature, but we don't know how to do it. All right, so jumping back to calendar. In relation to conference rooms, I'm going to go back to browsing interesting calendars here. And we're going to skip holidays and sports, and there's a More tab. We're going to click that. And these are, there's a little bit of interesting calendars here, sunrise and sunset for Ann Arbor. Excuse me, you can have the week numbers applied to your calendar if you need to know that. That's handy for project management, for instance. But there's also this link here for resources for umich.edu. We're going to click through. And then we get a long, long list of locations. The way locations are listed sort of depends on what your unit has decided to do to organize your conference rooms. So for ITS, for instance, we organize them by building first, and then we have the conference rooms within the building. That doesn't make sense for some buildings, so they may be different. AEC, for instance, has lots of buildings, but they have grouped all of their conference rooms under their organization because that's how folks tend to look for things there. What you need to find here first is how is that working for your department. That might be worth a quick chat or an email to the administrative folks in your department because they may know better than you or your coworkers. But if you do know and you know it's being organized by building, for instance, I'm going to drill into ASB because this is the big @services building for ITS staff. And let's pick one. Let's say 3028M. So this is a frequently used conference room on the 3rd floor at ASB. In high demand, has a big monitor, conference telephone, all the bells and whistles you probably want in a conference room. And I want to have my meeting in there, but I just can't find a time with the people that I've been trying to book. So I can do one of two things. I can just preview that, and that's going to pull up the calendar. It's going to show me everything that's on that calendar. I can do it down to a week, so I can see holes where openings are available for that conference room, and I can kind of keep bumping out. Say I know my meeting's the week of April 13th, Friday. Oh, I really can't do it in the morning for a 2-hour block because A, no one will be here at 8 o'clock and it's booked from 10 to noon, so maybe I need to do it from 1 to 3. Maybe that's enough information for you to kind of dislodge the scheduling conflict you've had and on your way. But if this is something you do a lot, you schedule meetings in 3028M a lot, or you just schedule meetings a lot, you can actually add this to your calendar. So down here at the bottom, there's a little plus Google Calendar icon. I can click that. It's going to open a tab with my calendar and prompt me to say, do you want to add this to your calendar? And, well, yes, I do. And now when I go to other calendars, ASB 3028M shows up as just another calendar on my Google Calendar. And you can see those items displayed with everything else. This gets a little noisy, so I really want to schedule just that. hover over 3028M, another down arrow here with a hidden menu. I can pick that, and I can display only this calendar. And now every other calendar that I had turned on is hidden except for 3028M. And that lets me kind of page through here to find that hole that I need, and look at that, 4-1. I could have it all day long. I can click and drag to select that. I can type in, put in an event name, and I can just create the event right here, and we're done. But you can also click edit, start adding your guests, do all that kind of stuff, make that real event from there. I won't do that because that's just mean, and it is a super popular conference room. And then I can start going back and turning on all my other calendars. So for a couple of the other locations, there's ASB, Arbor Lakes here for our ITS folks, athletics. A lot of groups have done these by organization levels, but we do see buildings, and some of them are just at the top level. You may have to search, and you may have to search from the event creation screen on rooms here. Try some variations on what a room might be called. I know some places nickname their rooms, so maybe there's like, we don't do that anymore. We used to have all gemstones for ours, so you would have been able to search for that. If you're not finding anything, try clearing this checkbox as well, because maybe the room you're looking for is not available at the time you have selected up here. By default, it will filter out rooms that are not available. Clearing that will show you the room whether it's available or not. Okay. Rooms, that's one thing. The other thing generally is inviting the people that need to come to your meetings. We have Gesundheit to the person through the brick wall. That was impressive. We have a lot of Google groups here on campus. A lot of them are sourced out of mCommunity. For those of you who aren't familiar, when you go to mCommunity, oops, I had that right, and you're logged in, you can create groups pretty easily. A lot of us have groups. But if you go to a group that you're a member of, and I'll just search for, so this is the Collab Services group, is kind of our internal group. Lots of members here, but one thing to note is this bottom item here, sent to Google UMich. That means the group membership on this mCommunity group has been synchronized to Google as a Google group. Now, it's not a Google group in the sense of what we talked about just before with the Collab forum. This is just a group of individuals that you can use for permissions, and now you can use them for calendar invites for it as well. If I go back to my calendar, I've created a fake event in advance here. I handily called it fake event. What you'll notice is I've invited its.iso.cs.cs as a group. When I go into that event and I look at the attendance, what I see is on the guest list, I see me as the organizer, and I see a group that I've invited. If I expand that, I see 8 members of the group. And what's really handy is I see the responses for them individually. What's really handy is if I created this event, let's say I created it today, and it was for next week, and tomorrow we add a new member to the team, and we add that person to this mCommunity group. As soon as we add it to the group, that change is synchronized back to Google, and that person gets added to this invitation. Same thing with removals. If you have a really large group that's kind of active, as you add and remove people from the mCommunity group, and that synchronization happens, this list updates. Couple rules here. The group has to meet one of a few conditions. It either has to be public, in which case everybody could see the membership in mCommunity. This will work. and everybody who gets the invitation can accept the invitation, no errors, none of that. If it's a private group, you have to be a member of the group, and everybody who gets the invite also needs to be a member of that group. If you send it to this group, for instance, and someone forwards it on to another individual and they try to accept, they'll get an error. They can still add it to their calendar, but some people may be familiar with the kind of salmon error you get that says you don't own this event, so you can't add it to your calendar. That will still happen. But as long as... Dear Google, please bring back status indicators for busy. Sorry. But this is really handy if you're doing a group. You can have a lot of people in a group, 200, 250. I don't know what the upper limit is. The limit for the number of people you'll see in an expanded group in Calendar is about 200. They'll still get the invitation, but you won't see individual responses much beyond 200. That's mostly a limitation of what this page can display. It's pretty unwieldy beyond, I mean, even 50, this page scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. So at 200 or more than that, it's really kind of difficult to manage. But if you have a large group of people that you need to send invitations to, this is a really handy way to do that. Any questions? No? Okay.
Well, here we go.
Oh, all right, we have a question.
Okay, Jennifer's asking, will using the Google Groups for invites help you find the best time to schedule, say, a team meeting, instead of trying to select each member to see their availability?
So that's a good question. Yes, it can actually. Sorry, let me start over. Here's the event. I've added this group, but I didn't really know if everybody was available. I just kind of typed in a time and sent them an event because that's when I wanted to have the meeting. But yeah, if you're trying to schedule with everybody's availability, this is actually kind of helpful. You can type in the group, we get the expansion, and then I can go to this Find a Time tab right here, and you'll notice that it shows all of the individuals. Once you do that, you can kind of page through looking for availability. If that doesn't work, back here to the event details below this list, and you can roll this up to make it a little bit easier, there's a suggested times link. If you click that, it's going to give you a list of times. I believe this goes out 2 weeks. Don't quote me on that. It may be a week. Up to 2 weeks. We'll do up to 2 weeks. Where it will show you any slot that is available for all of the people who have been invited. You can click that, and it's going to automatically populate that date and time into the date and time slots up here. You can kind of verify that by clicking Find a Time, and it's going to show you everybody here. This is actually showing me over top of something that Debbie is busy because she declined. She's just not. She's already said no, I'm not coming to this event. So it ignores people who've declined and lets you schedule over events that are busy on their calendar. Yes.
Great. Not unrelated question from Vanessa. Are non-U of M affiliated members of an M community group also included in the group invite to an event?
So no. And an important caveat here as well. Non-U of M members of M community groups are not synchronized to Google at all. So even if the group is synchronized to Google, those members are not sent to the Google group. And then that kind of carries forward of, because they're not synchronized to Google, they would not show up in this list.
Great.
All right. Keep questions coming if you have them. I'm going to show you a couple things while we let some questions queue up, hopefully. One thing to note, the display of the calendar, you can kind of click through these buttons here and have different modes of display. Agenda is kind of handy if you need to just read through. If you have lots of items on your calendar, you just need to read through of where am I going. This is a really handy way to do that. You can actually have this emailed to you every day at about 5 in the morning. If you go to the settings and calendar, Go to, go to the Calendars tab, and then for your calendar, you can go to Reminders and Notifications, and this is what the default settings look like for everybody's individual calendars. You get emails if someone sends you a new event or they change an event, if they cancel it. If you're the organizer, you get emails sent to you when people respond. These are all turned on by default. If you have an unlimited SMS package, you can have those things actually texted to you. This is off by default, but the last item on this list is the daily agenda. You can have your day's agenda emailed to you every day, generally about 5 a.m. it says, just by checking this box. This is, if you're taking the bus to work and you are on your smartphone, you can kind of page through that quickly. You'll get a little bit more detail than on your iPhone's event card, and you don't have to drill into each individual agenda item on your phone's calendar. It's kind of handy. I don't use it a lot because I generally go where my phone tells me to go, but some folks find that handy. You can also adjust your default event reminder time. I think by default this is 15 minutes, so this is the reminder that you need to go to a meeting that pops up on your phone or on your desktop. You can change this to be whatever you want. Most of my meetings I'm probably 5 minutes or less of a walk away, so I've cranked this down to 5 minutes because if it goes off at 15, I sometimes forget that I need to be walking 5 minutes before the meeting. You can actually add multiple reminders though if you want, so you could have a pop-up reminder at 15 and at 5. You can change this to be email or a text message if you want as well. Just depends on what your preference is for removing those. I'm not going to do that, so I'll take those out. And I'll go back to my calendar. This 4 days, I should have stayed in settings. So this is just showing me today and the next 3 days on a rolling basis. It doesn't skip weekends, as you can see. You can configure that to be whatever time period, or within a specified amount, but you can change that to be a different set of days. It could be 2, just today and tomorrow, all the way up to the next 4 weeks on a rolling basis. So it always starts with today and looks ahead X number of, well, X minus 1 days that you select here. Since we're in the settings here, I'll point out the most helpful lab that should be the default. It's called Gentle Reminders. I don't understand why this is not part of Calendar by default. It's still a lab, but everybody should turn this on. By default, when you get a reminder, you get a pop-up window in Chrome and Firefox that no matter what you're doing, steals focus from that and brings you to the pop-up window that says you've got something to do in 5 or 15 minutes. If you're typing at that moment and you happen to hit enter, what you'll get is a flash. You'll hit enter and it'll go away. Or you'll just be typing along and not notice that you're not in Word anymore. You're actually looking at your Google Calendar, which is super annoying. What Gentle Reminders does is it allows you to have, I don't actually know what the official word is, but you can have pop-up reminders that do not steal focus. For those of you who may have used Outlook in the past, this is what incoming mail notifications and calendar reminders would look like. You kind of had this card slide up from the bottom of your screen or slide in from the top of your screen that said, hey, you got something to do here. But it didn't steal focus. It gave you a little chime to remind you that you had a notification. Please turn this on. It'll save you a world of annoyance. One I personally like is called Automatically Declining Events. If I put something on my calendar, it's automatically flagged as busy, but you can get an additional layer of busy called Decline Invitations. If someone tries to schedule over something I've marked with busy decline, they will automatically receive a decline from me for that event. It doesn't do it by default to new items, but so if I were to schedule I'm going to put hold time tomorrow at 8 to 9 because I got something to do. By default, you'll see here it's busy, but I can select busy, decline invitations, and if anybody tries to send me an invitation from 8 to 9 tomorrow, they will automatically be declined. That's very handy if you're looking for that head down time to get that deliverable done. You can do that. But if these items, this view of your calendar just isn't cutting it for you, you can select your own ad hoc view of your calendar. Over here in the mini calendar, if you click and drag, you can select whatever duration of time you want to look at just by clicking and dragging across it. So this is 5 days, here's 6. I could look at the next 2 weeks, I could look at the next 3 weeks, whatever makes sense to you. And you can see those items just however you want. Maybe I want to just see those 4 days for whatever reason. I can look at that. Pretty handy way to kind of quickly look ahead at a couple days. If you're trying to schedule that event, you just need to know where the holes in your calendar are. This is a quick way to do that. Any questions? All right. I'll go to today. I'm going to flip mine back to week. Another lab is called the Free or Busy, and we'll go back to labs. If you go to the gear icon, labs. Where is it? So there's another lab here called Free or Busy, which I have turned on. What that does is you can add individuals to a sidebar here, and it will show you what their items are coming up. Generally, it looks ahead a couple hours to show you whether they're free or not. These are people you may interact with frequently. You just need to know where they are or when they're coming back sometimes. When is my boss going to be back in the office so I can tackle him on the way in? That might show you that they're coming back from busy or whatever it is. This respects the share settings of their calendar to you. So for instance, Bry Wilk here, I can see his calendar by default as just free busy time, and he has not shared any details with me. So I see that he has blocked off time, but I don't know where or for what. Martin, on the other hand, we've shared details with our calendars with each other, so I see his 11:30 to 1 board gaming item on here, and maybe I know where that is, or maybe I can get some context around that, and I can quickly address Martin either by instant messaging or in person. And you can close that as well. There's a little arrow here, and you can just kind of close that up if you need that extra space back on your calendar. Oops. No questions? So this is all well and fine working in Chrome. You can do, I don't think anything I've talked about doesn't work in Firefox, to be quite honest. But sometimes you don't have your laptop or you're not at your desktop, but you do have your iPhone or your Android phone, and you can do some work on that LTE connection that you get here in town. I'll flip back to turn off my screen share because, frankly, looking at my Chrome window when I'm talking about a mobile phone is just not fun. Google does have the Chrome browser for both your iPhone and your Android phone. If you do use the functionality of signing into Chrome, you can do so on your phone as well. This will synchronize your bookmarks. It will synchronize your tabs. If you start working on something or you're reading an article in Chrome on your laptop or your desktop in your office, and you close that laptop, throw it in your bag to go across campus, and you're sitting on a northbound commuter for the next 15 minutes, you can open Chrome on your phone, open the bookmarks menu on the browser there, and you can see all the tabs you left open on your laptop, on your phone, and pick up right where you left off. You can't do things like Active Inbox, or lots of labs just don't translate to the mobile device, but you can do a lot of the almost all of the functionality you have on a stock mail or calendar app in your browser also work on your phone. Yeah.
At ASB had a fire drill. Can you just reiterate that this will be recorded and posted for people?
Sure. So some folks who were watching this just got kicked out of the building into the cold because of a fire drill. Nice timing, DPSS. Tomorrow's supposed to be better, but this is being recorded. So if you did miss something, if you've joined us and are warming your hands around a cup of tea, you can find this on YouTube. We'll post this on the events page. We'll put it on our social media pages. We'll post a link in the Collab forum. All of this will be available for your viewing pleasure, hopefully in your lunch hour or on a warm beach. Excuse me. Sorry. Again, if you have any questions, please flag us. We're happy to invite you in here. We can have a conversation here in the Hangout. We can answer from the Q&A pod. If you know one of us, you can just ping us directly. Other than that, that is the end of my formal presentation. The rest of the time is really reserved for your questions. And I'll just kind of hang out here. We'll leave the mic on. And just for the people in the room, the mic will be on. But thank you all for attending, and this is probably going to be the point where we chop up the recording. Have a great day.